My name is Bradley Watts. I am a prior CAR-T patient turned patient advocate for the Emily Whitehead Foundation. I'm actually going to cheat a little bit because I was in a taxi cab on the way over, and I jotted some notes down on my phone that I wanted to share before getting more into my story. But I became an advocate because no one should have to endure what I did just to access treatment that could save their life. The path of my treatment took a profound toll on my mental and physical health, the extent of which I might not realize for years to come. Time is our most precious resource, and patients do not have time to wait. That's why I'm here. Whatever it takes to move research forward, to push the mission ahead, I'm all in because lives depend on it. And just as a quick snapshot of my story and a little bit of my journey, I was diagnosed, and unfortunately, and this is actually, just as a little bit of a heads up, this is actually to be continued because my CAR-T, unfortunately, was only partially effective. But fortunately, since 2021, I'm on a drug holiday that was for my wedding and honeymoon, and actually just last week was at Penn with Dr. Bruce Levine and got fully clear scan, so everything's still looking very positively. Thank you. So I was first diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, two different types of non-Hodgkin lymphoma when I was 29 years old, both diffuse large B-cell lymphoma and follicular lymphoma. And at that point in time, both of those cancers were more common in 70-plus-year-olds. I was 29. I didn't have a primary care physician. I was a bad, first patient. I thought I was invincible. And so what I did first as a young millennial, I called Teladoc. I was like, hey, what's this lump in my neck? Can you figure out what it is? Long and short, very soon after, I was rushing to get biopsies and I was going to every hospital that I possibly could to push my treatment forward once it started to look a little bit negatively in terms of it being cancer. I always knew that I wanted to go to Penn, and fortunately I had Memorial Sloan Kettering as a phenomenal second opinion as well, and very fortunate to be in an area with such strong institutions. But my first round of treatment was chemotherapy, and before all of these lines of treatment, the most time that I had in between any one of these treatments was actually my first. It was 8 months between R-CHOP and then throughout the rest of this journey. R-CHOP, I'll go through quickly of some of these regimens. Long and short, that was 6 rounds of treatment over the course of 3 months. And I responded really well to chemotherapy. I came back in for my first complete response in 2018. And the thing that I remember a little bit more than receiving and ringing the bell was actually, there was a flash mob at Penn at the time, because that was when CAR-T, Kymriah specifically, was being FDA approved. And so I was walking out of the building, I was excited about that because it gave me hope. And it's almost, be careful what you wish for, but I was always like, if it ever comes back, I'm happy that there's this treatment that can use my own body and targeted medicine rather than just chemotherapy. And careful what I wish for. So moving forward, I went through radiation therapy, kind of fast forwarding to 2019. It kept coming back and coming back stronger. I had multiple nodes in my neck. I had 5 in my chest and abdomen of malignant nodes. And after the radiation therapy, I was trying to get into a clinical trial for CAR-T. I knew that I wanted CAR-T. But unfortunately, the clinical trials I couldn't get access to one way or another. I didn't meet whatever the regimen or the pieces of the information that I needed to qualify for it. But so the doctor was approaching me with different options, and one of the options was going through a regimen called RICE, which was 3 days, 4 nights, 3 rounds of that in hospital. And if I failed, I could go to CAR-T. If I performed well on that, I would go to an autologous stem cell transplant. So I usually use very colorful language depending on who I'm speaking with, but I'll keep it a little bit less. But it's really messed up that I was trying to fail chemotherapy treatment. I was in a hospital trying to fail it so that I could go to CAR T. I wanted to avoid stem cell transplant. This was also 2020, COVID obviously, and I was going into hospital. I went into, it's kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I went into hospital for stem cell transplant on April 1st of 2020 during the initial height of COVID. And one of the main concerns of Penn at the time was, we're running out of room. There's all these COVID patients. We might have to move you over to the kind of under construction hospital across the street. So kind of jumping back a little bit, like I always did, I performed very well on the chemotherapy despite my best efforts. And I moved forward with the autologous stem cell transplant. It was 19 days in hospital, no visitors. At one point, they thought I had COVID. So, and this is the mental aspect, which was very difficult for me, as well as not everyone getting in suited up in the full alien suits and coming in and testing me for everything. I didn't have COVID, thankfully, but that failed immediately. The stem cell transplant was supposed to give me 10 plus years of cancer-free remission. It had the most data behind it, standard of care, very frustrating. And ultimately, I got my wish of going through the CAR T treatment 3 months after I was, they found out that I had failed the stem cell transplant. And one thing just to kind of note specifically with the stem cell transplant is, as a patient and with my caregivers, my main goal was to receive the treatment and to move on, get this chapter behind me as quickly as I possibly could. So it was going to MSK, it was going to Penn, and MSK was saying, you're on the right path, this is what you should be doing. So I had confidence in what we were doing. One of the things that was mentioned to me, but I didn't realize the significance of it or the importance of it, hindsight being 2020, is they wanted to do genetic testing. I said, okay, yeah, great, that sounds good, but let's focus on the cancer first and let's treat that. Long story short, if I did genetic counseling between the stem cell transplant and CAR T therapy while I was waiting for my cells to be manufactured, and they found out that I was a carrier of the BRCA2 mutation. And that then would have indicated that the regimen of the stem cell transplant, which also included carmustine, the oldest chemotherapy treatment derived from mustard gas, I would have been able to avoid that. I would have been able to not have to have my body go through the toxic effects of that, have less than 1% chance of fertility, having fertility issues and all these other crazy things. So this part of the reason why I'm an advocate now is I advocate for people to get the genetic testing. It's similar to the last conversation as well, because it can, and instead of treating the disease, treat the patient, because I didn't fit the mold of a standard non-Hodgkin's lymphoma patient. And if I would have had more information and more knowledge and known that that could have had a major effect on my treatment, I most certainly would have done it. But moving forward with the CAR T therapy, that was Kymriah, that was also at Penn. And I would do, one thing that I say frequently now, Tom Whitehead from the Emily Whitehead Foundation asked me when we were down at Advanced Therapies Week over a year ago now, Brad, would you have done it all over or would you have gone to CAR T? And I, hands down, CAR T immediately. I would do CAR T 10 times over before doing another chemotherapy regimen. Just the recovery, the amount of time, the mental load, just there's so many. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there and I don't have much time and I'm waiting for someone to yell at me about how much time I have. But, and that is the CAR T therapy, waiting for the treatment. There's a lot, what we need to be doing now is be getting more patients access, trying to decentralize. More people need to know about these. And it's not even, it's educating patients, knowing that this is out there, and also physicians. There's stories that I hear, fortunately, through patients with the Emily Whitehead Foundation and other physicians that, there's some physicians not around these institutions like MSK and Penn that say oh, don't do that, it's going to kill you. And I'm sitting there like, I would go through cytokine release syndrome, I'd have that over and over and over again. you know, it's flu-like symptoms times 10. It was really, really good way of my doctor, my physician, explaining it to me over the effects of chemotherapy, the long-term effects, the effects from the medications that I'm taking to deal with those other effects as well. Long and short as well, after the CAR T therapy, I mentioned that was only partially effective. I'll go through this part quickly. What we ended up doing to try and my cells exhausted a little too quickly. So what we did was we then, I went on Keytruda to help reinvigorate them, as well as I had one node that was left in my neck, and so I had direct localized radiation therapy to kind of help the cells pinpoint where they needed to go and what the nodes they needed to knock out. That lasted and worked well. Then I had a full excision of nodes because it kept coming back in my neck time and time again, even though I was told this area would be sterile, it would never come back in this area again. I'm giving a very truncated story to try and make the timeline, but fortunately now, again, the information that I was given throughout the entire process of treatment, you know, dealing with, I have a picture of my wife. You can't really see, oh, you can. Those TVs don't work all that well. My son there, and I actually have a 3-week-old now. I was told that I'd never be able to have a natural family, and we went through IVF loads of different times. We were struggling with that. My wife said, let's try naturally once, and for the first time, again, long story short, it's had a tremendous impact, and I am up here today to try to tell you and hope that I can have the same impact on you, and at the very least, tell other people about CAR T therapy, cell and gene therapy, in the autoimmune space, in rare disease. Not enough people know about it. There needs to be more funding, more research, more investment into this area, because it is, if I could have avoided, and here I'm gonna go back to my little cheat sheet here of what I wanted to say. I spent 250 days in the hospital, and likely that's going to go up and continue to go up, unfortunately. But imagine if I just got one of those days back. And then imagine if, not just me, but all patients got just one day. Caregivers, physicians, just one day back, and the amount of time they would have to live. You know, I know this was mentioned in the previous talk, but a normal life, whatever that life is, it's just, it can make a profound effect on patients' lives. So thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and thank you in NewYorkBIO.